I up first, Doyle? Or?
Well, let me let everybody know what our plan is for tonight. You can see on the screen right now that we have a couple of awesome IBOs on to share with you. Andy Argeris, Diamond IBO from up in Montreal, Canada. And we have Bob Wayne, Emerald IBO from down in Texas. So they probably couldn't be much further apart. We're going to cover the qualifying process tonight, introduce you to what we call a QP Flowchart, and go through some of the phases, the 4 phases of the QP. And we're going to get into some, how to register customers, because that's critically important, especially these days. Steve and I are going to give you some Amway business updates that are coming in September, and talk about the new Eagle levels. Of course, promote free enterprise and end up with some announcements. First of all, it's just an honor to be partners with our parents, Dexter and Bertie, and the legacy that they have started and continue. And like Steve said, the grit in terms of the growth mindset, or just the mindset overall today, is critically important. The mental toughness and the guts that seems like everyone is required to have. And of course, the work ethic today, very creative, and having to still do our daily habits and have the will to be entrepreneurs, make things happen, build our sweat equity into our asset, and reap some of the rewards still. And very grateful for all of that. So I'll turn it over to you, Steve.
All right. Yeah. So over the last couple of years, we've been kind of transitioning, upgrading, use a few different terminology to describe what we've been doing in the organization. And some of that goes kind of back to the beginning. And what do they call that? Back to the future. And really what we, meaning myself and Doyle, Jeff, my mom, as well as a lot of the diamonds that go back that far, 40 plus years ago, would remember really my dad's teaching, my mentor, our mentors, teaching on posture and conveying the right posture. We have what we believe is the greatest platform to be for an entrepreneur from any background. Those that have means, those that don't, those that have education, those that don't, those that have professional background, those that don't. But to convey the opportunity that is there in the right way, that people understand it, value it, connect with it, and appreciate it, so that they're pursuing it, you're not pursuing them. And it all is how you frame the conversation to begin with. It starts at the very connection where conversations start, and it's carried all the way through. And that's what I would call Dexter 101. All to help people prepare them for business ownership, so that there's no black eyes. What I've said of my father, he said, sitting in the living room in 1970, 71, whatever that was, and recorded Jaeger Tips, the first audio, talked about these principles of how to connect with people properly, so that people don't have the wrong impression. And then so that when we have people in our business, they're not black eyes. And that means that we don't want to bring people in just to bring them in. We want to have success stories and people that honor the partnership, understand and value. And so that's what some of the transition that's been going on over the last couple of years. And one of the things you'll see on the screen that we put on in the business planner last year to help people really focus in on that process, putting the story together. You should have a long story, you should have a short story. Short story when you're connecting with somebody, and when you have the opportunity to sit down with somebody with more time, for example, in a meet and greet, and you share your longer story. But that story is so important in every, aspect of the conversation, from before that to after that, is just getting some new terminology that is more effective in today's today's society, as you've heard before, that we live in a society that's not that's very skeptical, right? And I know that I'm not, we all are one. I use the example recently, like being on the phone with somebody in customer service, somebody calls you and what they're selling you sounds really good. But then you start to think, well, your natural skepticism comes into it, and you say, well, what's the other side? This can't be that good. This can't be as good as it sounds. And maybe some of that based on your personality. And so, you start asking the question, what's in it for me? And so what we want to do with this whole process is lay it out and make it really clear, really transparent for us and for them, for their benefit and for ours, so that we have the right foundation for the right kind of relationship going forward. That's important in any kind of partnership arrangement. Now, we don't have a legal partnership, but it is a partnership that we work together and contribute. And so we're looking for the right people to put on our bus. And so you're familiar, probably all on the call, have that business planner and that outline. I hope you got it filled out and put your story together, practiced it with your mentor, maybe even practiced it on your voice recorder and listen back to it, because you can self-correct a lot of things when you hear yourself. Sometimes you don't even need to bother your mentor with that, although they will have a more experienced perspective that will help you. And that's so important to do that. Huddle, play, huddle, share your story, perfect your story, make it yours, make it comfortable, and then go share it. And so what Andy's going to be talking with you a little bit about tonight, I'm not sure what framework that is, but you may not know, we put together kind of a flow chart. That makes it a little bit easier to follow the conversation format versus just, some steps that you share and how you share, kind of how the back and forth conversation goes. And it's helpful to get the framework down and help you master it. Because it really is not difficult to master, but it does take some effort. It does take some practice. It does take some experience. And you'll find that I've seen people that in the transition go exactly as we talk about, right? Going from very awkward. Doesn't matter if you just got into it and started your own company, or whether you've had your own company and been successful. Learning something new is a transition, and it takes a while for that to get comfortable, implemented, effective, and then duplicated. And so that's the purpose of kind of this flowchart. We'll talk about it afterwards where you'll find it, but I think Andy does a great job in sharing on the topic and can walk you through it and maybe add some context and some salt and pepper flavoring to it. So here is Diamond IBO from Canada, Montreal, Andy Argyris.
Hey, Steve. Good stuff, bro. Awesome. Yeah, up here in lockdown heaven. They won't let us go anywhere. We got stuck on the 46th parallel. And we can go north. But we can't go south.
Yeah, you're on the right side of the border because, what is the right side? The question is you're with your family. So I guess that's the defining factor.
Right. Yeah. Good thing we were both on the same side when it happened. All of us. Well, hey, that's great stuff. I love listening to your explanation of this whole process. And as people like yourself, people with experience, you and your brothers, as we all get familiar with this and we bring our experience into this process, we come to realize that Dex was trying to teach us all those many years how to actually build a business. And he realized that becoming a professional is all about, sharing, being able to share your ideas, share the system with other people. And there's nothing really to do here, because everything, after you found somebody who's a willing partner, it's just a question of having them go through the process of them qualifying, to be on the team. So there's really, the only thing to become professional at is, initiating the conversations and deepening them, creating a friendship, a trust, sharing your message, sharing your story, and then dropping the message if you feel like it, And so everybody's always, the big worry is doing this right, And there's no really doing it right technique-wise, as it is so much about getting better and better at connecting with people. And that's just going to take some practice. I hate to break the news to you, but that's just going to take some practice. Okay, it's not something we can teach out of the box. Now, what do we do to get the next slides going here, Steve? How do we forward this thing to? There we go. Okay, great. So we have, as you can see here, the selection process, right? Going through the pre-QP and the meet and greet ones, twos, and everything. And most of it, if you're new, your upline's going to handle a lot of as you get deeper into this. Okay, but the first part of the flow chart that I like is the actual getting to putting somebody through the qualifying process. In other words, you going through a conversation process is the most important part that you're going to have to learn. It's not going to be like what's the next step in the process, the qualification process. That's pretty simple and self-evident, and your upline's going to be there to help you with it. The conversation process is the key. Is how is it we're going to get somebody to the qualifying process, right? And so, number one, what you have there is you can see the different lists that we'll be working with. A and B lists are pretty obvious, right? There's what you say when you have an A list, somebody that you're real close to. I can't say anything. I know it might be too soon. You can even say, I'm going through a process now. I'll let you know when I get through it. If I qualify, I'll talk to them about you. And it seems natural, when you're talking to your cousin or your brother-in-law. Of course, you'll be introducing them to these people or to this program. It makes sense, right? Because you know them. People do this to their friends all the time. Think of Dexter. Anytime he came across something good, the first thing Dex and Bertie wanted to do was share with their best friends, share with the people they knew, their family, right? This is natural, and it continues, even though we have a little bit more of a qualifying process, okay? But our B list is people that are acquaintances, and that's where you might tell them about, when they ask you what's happening, what's new, then you can see here pretty simple. I've been investing my time lately setting up my financial future with some mentors and I got connected to. Now, one thing I got to tell you about this flow chart is these are pretty set examples. Now, in talking with your upline, you might use something a little bit different, a little variance, but this is just so you have an idea what the idea of what we're saying is. And don't forget, this is a document that's been approved, okay? That's been reviewed. So you don't have to worry that you're saying the wrong thing if you're reading it off this chart, okay? So if you decide to add something to it or say something a little different with your upline, that's between you and your upline. That's fine, okay? So and then there's the C list, and the C list is what I call the professional list. This is where we really build our business over the years. It's people that we don't know just yet, and so we're going to tell them my background is in this, but my focus lies, engineering, but my focus lies in building some business assets that create cash flow with a private mentorship group, or my background's in engineering, but my focus and passion is with a business mentorship group outside my 9 to 5. Okay, you can even break that down further by saying, my life totally changed direction when I met a couple of years back. Crazy story if you want to hear about it. You can add this or that, but definitely when we're talking ABC list, things are a little different. But the one that has to get learned the most and for the longest period of time is C list, because that's the one you're going to spend your whole profession in this business in, all right, and creating your diamond ship and EDC ship and double. process for you to stay, to grow in, to become better at. Slide, guys, because any one of these, dropping a message really doesn't have to do with their answers, right? If you saw in the previous flow chart, in the previous one, that if they're like excited, like how do we get access to people like that? That would be awesome, right? I don't necessarily drop the message just because they're interested. I say, what's that thinking all about? Like, where's that coming from? Like, wow. Now, I might say that because I have a little more experience, and just because somebody's hyped up and excited right this second, I want to see where's that excitedness coming from. So I'll ask them some questions, And when it comes time that you want to drop the message, you have some things you can say right here, right? Like, I'm going to be speaking or catching up with my mentor in a few days. I can't promise anything, but I could drop your name in a conversation, potentially open a door for you, right? Now, is that something you place value on? Would you appreciate my introducing you to them? Say a little different ways, right? Talk to your upline, but here's some great set things that if you said this, you'd be fine, you'd be great, I'll be talking to my mentors, so I'll let you know if they respond to right, is just follow the answers here, right? What's one thing about yourself you would want them to know about you? If I could tell them something about you, what would it be? What could I tell them about you? That kind of thing. And so this is all part of dropping the message. But remember, you drop the message because you saw something in them that you thought would be great, that you would love to have on your team. This is all important, okay? And that's why those guys that didn't answer properly, don't worry about the fact that you weren't able to drop the message, okay? Just move on. It's going to take quite a few conversations to meet the right people that fit on your team, all right? Let's be a little bit more demanding, I shouldn't say demanding, but more, eclectic, right, in our choices. Like, these are people we're going to spend the next 10, 20, 30 years with. Who do we want it to be? Like, we don't know them yet, but at least we have an idea when we first meet them, right? So if you're doing a meet and greet with your mentor, if they're going to be doing a meet and greet one with you, that's real simple. You go one way to the left. Good news, I put in a good word for you. My mentor agreed to meet for me to introduce you to him. He suggested we meet for coffee. What's your calendar look like? And your upline is going to come and do the meet and greet one with them. Okay, and do primary motivating factors and ask them these questions, right? And then if you're going to do the meet and greet one, that's, they're both part of the good news phone call, right? But you're going to get back to them and say, look, I spoke to my mentor, I told him a couple of things about you, and he asked me some things about you I didn't know the answers to, so would you like to meet up for a cup of coffee, and we'll go from there. Why don't we do this? Let's meet for coffee. We can find out more about what you're looking for, and share with you a bit about what they look for, and we can go from there. There's like 3-4 scenarios there that you can use. I mean, talk about a great cheat sheet, And I know that you can't have these when you're talking to somebody, but you sure can, go a long way in memorizing them. Okay, they'll really help you. If we could have the next slide there, guys, right? So we'll go from the dropping the message to the meet and greet. Now, this is the easy part. And I say it's the easy part because once you have somebody that's like halfway willing, looks humble, hungry, appreciative, willing, I mean, the meet and greet is just a formality to figure out is the person, even though they have the right traits, are they really looking? Are they confused about network marketing? Do they have no experience in network marketing? And sometimes I prefer to have some experience in network marketing because the ones that say they don't will go find out about it, and they're going to go read a bunch of stuff. So I want to make sure that they have their, their own thinking, right? So you ask those questions that were in the previous page, and you'll get an idea of what they're all about. Okay, so meet and greet 1. There's some optional questions here for you. How to wrap it up, right? And read the book, and you give them 2 to 4 days. You give them a week, whatever you're going to give them. I suggest that you tell them that you're going to be texting them in a few days, right? To find out if they're getting through the book, right? Because if you're not getting through a book, we won't bother calling Jeff, Steve Doyle, whoever it is you're dealing with, in order to talk to them, right? And you want to give them a little example, like I was hungry, and here's a point about this book reading thing, because a lot of people don't come back, or they keep them for 2 weeks. And one person was like, I was just talking to them the other day, actually, for someone, and they said they got to page, like 100. It's been 3 weeks, and I asked them a question. I said, "Let me ask you something. Very simple here. If you don't have the time and the energy to get through a book in a week, what makes you think you're going to find the time and the energy to apply yourself to a business, to learn new habits? How's this going to happen? Am I wrong here? How's that going to work?" And so that's better than, "Come on, man, you should have read the book already." I go with like a more positive approach. If you didn't have time for the book, how are you going to have time for building a business? That kind of thing. And it's very important to get them to understand, because if they were interviewing for a $75,000 a year job, right, and they asked them to read a book for the second interview, they would have read the book. I think most of them, anyways. They're not going to hire the ones that didn't read the book. I can tell you that. So you have the sample emails here. Then you do the meet and greet 2, which is reviewing the book. If we can have the next slide, Doyle, right? Reading read some questions, right? You do a little overview about what we're doing, how the money flows, and about the system, the team, the most important part, and we switch, share, duplicate. I make it's about as simple as it gets. Okay, this is a lot more in depth here on what you could do during the meet and greet 2. And again, most of you on this call, your upline is going to be doing the meet and greet 2 for you, because now they don't even have to be nearby. Thanks to COVID, a lot of people have figured out how to do meetings online. You can do virtual meetings, very simple. And so your upline, can help you from very far away. All right. I just actually did one this morning at 10 a.m. for someone in Europe. No big deal, right? Easy peasy. So next slide, please. Right. So more examples of how to do meet and greet 2s, how to wrap them up, what to say, and then overview 1 is to introduce them to the mentorship. Now the overviews are kind of online now, so you have to figure something out. One thing I figured out is it's a great idea to meet with a person online on Zoom, go to meeting, whatever, like just after the ICO, just after the info session online, whichever one you're using. Let's say it's a Jaeger one. So at 9:15 on a Monday night, I would be meeting with them to like we were live, and like the meeting's over, and we discussed what we're doing next. Okay? And so next slide, right? Overview 1, right? You continue, then you get to the follow-through, and there's more, again, useful information here on what to say. Everybody's going to say something a little different, or leave out one, put in 2 of the other, okay? But it's just some great ideas on, so you're not stuck with what do I say, it's all right here. Next slide, please. Right, so have a follow-through that we're going to get to, and we're going to go through the habits and the activities, the meetings, that kind of stuff. And next slide, which should be the overview of the plan, help them understand that. Next slide. Okay. Overview 2, and this is the one I like, right? We've had them now read a book, as you can see in the previous example there. During the follow-up, we've had them go through a household goal. We've given them, some people give the Go Giver, but household goal is good. Have them listen to an audio or 2 that are all right there, right? Bert Gulick's iCommerce is a business choice, actually. I was just listening to it the other day. Awesome. and no limitations, depending on how tough they are, right? I give them that one too. And so, awesome stuff, right? To get you to the info session, second one, overview 2, again, online probably, right? Depending which one, your uplines or the Jaeger one that you're using, fantastic. Then we give them a little more information before we get to the next follow-up, and it's all down here, right? Audio options and professional perspective panel. We've got Kopecki's audio and the book, okay? 4 Laws of Debt-Free Prosperity. But again, review everything with your upline. Be conscious of where your prospect, your candidate is at. Where that we say that now, we can't end with a proposition, but we say where are they at? Okay, so give them things according to their situation. All right, and everybody's got a different situation. So always review with your upline how to play huddle all the time. All right, don't worry about bothering your upline. You're not bothering them when you're active. Okay. It's a good bother, a real good bother. Next slide, please, Boyle. Right, and then we go to follow up 2, which right we lay out the financial commitment, what's going to happen. We review the habits, see if they're in agreement with all those things. Right, the volume standards. Tell me a little bit about the audio you listen to, what you think of the book, all that kind of stuff. Okay. So there's a lot that can go over during the second follow-up, right? Ditto, I mean, we can go through a lot. But again, go according to your candidate, okay? If you broke it up in 2 more follow-ups, that's fine, okay? But the whole idea is to cover this stuff eventually, okay? Next slide, Doyle. Okay. Again, you'll be going through the follow-up according to the candidate and according to your huddle. You'll go through the launch, the costs of launching a business, of what kind of materials are going to need, getting subscribed to IBO City, to the app, to listen to their audios and all that stuff, okay? So at that point, they're pretty full of information, right? And wrap it up and you move on to launching them, okay? And before we launch them, okay, this is your final thing on the flowchart is the questions. We have about 18 questions, which is a pre-offer questionnaire email, and we want to see them answer questions. I pretty much don't like yes/no answers. I want them to expand on it. So you're going to get different answers from a political science major than you will from an engineering graduate. So look for them to explain, kind of expand on their thoughts a little bit. Okay, some are pretty clear. I'm just going to tell you what do they have to plan for, what are the habits they have to adapt, and all that stuff. And I think that's it for the flow chart. And like Steve said, a lot of this stuff is in your TL14. Okay, and you got the core runs that you're going to give them. You're going to start them off with 30 days, and then once somebody can complete 30 days, might be the first one, might be a third one, they're ready to go to a 90-day core run. Okay, but they're not necessarily ready for a 90-day core run off the start, because 90-day core run, we denote that they're starting to get involved in the conversation and DTMs and the building aspects of the business. So we want them to first get into the habits, right, that they have to learn on the 30-day core run. Everybody's going to be different, and that's why the huddle play huddle is so crucial in reviewing with your upline what's going on with everybody. So this is not a one size fits all type business. The only thing that's one size fits all that anybody can do that's like simple is the switch, share, duplicate part of our business, right? The moving your money over here, sharing with other people, duplicating, like that's the simplest part of our business, is that perspective. But then when it comes to personally working with the people, everything is custom. If I would ask a question to Dex in the past about what do you do with this guy if he says this and that? Well, I don't know. He'd be like, where does he work? What's his experience? What's his thought pattern? Process. What kind of a mindset does he have? Is he a worker? Is he lazy? There's so many things to look at that your upline, with their experience, would know that you need to take into consideration. So we have a great template here. Steve and Doyle, thanks for you and your staff working to provide us stuff to what seems like an ungrateful group, but we really are grateful. We do appreciate this stuff, and I hope everybody else does, because they're great templates for people to have at least some basic understanding of the process as they're trying to grapple with it and figure it out. And it's all right there for them in black and white, so we didn't have to do this. You guys did it. We sure do appreciate it. We appreciate everything the Jaegers have done for all of us over the years. And before I get into tear-jerky stuff, I'm going to pass it back to you. Right?
No. Let's keep it going. All right, thanks. So as he was hitting on there, I just think it's very important because I think some people can have their stories put together and still have to brand them by their upline, which I don't understand. But Andy covered the basis of it. Is you want to talk about who you're connected with. You want to talk about what results they've been able to have, which is out of these obvious key points that are going to should ring bells for somebody with the right mindset. You're going to talk about what they're teaching you to do, building assets, cash flow assets, that language, and then you're going to talk about your why. What reason are you doing it for? And what, if not all of those, are going to connect with people? And so make sure you include those four things. Really the part about being fortunate enough, because that really rings true when people realize the thin threads of how you were connected to it. And if you've heard anybody tell a good story of how they're connected, it includes that. Like Andy was just talking about, if you want to hear a crazy story, right? Well, what does that tell you? It's a thin thread. And so, taking advantage of huge opportunities usually result in some preparation meeting opportunity. And so that those thin threads are there. And so you want to include that, and saying fortunate enough obviously includes that. There's probably some other words you could say to get that across as well. But practice it, even on your voice recorder is a great way, and then send that off to your mentor as well, written and verbal, so hearing it how it sounds. Okay, so that I've already gotten see text and things popping up. People are like, I can't find that. Where is that? Check with your upline for that document. I think it's going to be in the next business planner that's going to be out not too long in the future. But until that time, it may show up on IBO City in the near future as well in the download section. All right? So take advantage of that, and I'm turning it over to Doyle.
All right, great. Thanks, Steve. Well, everybody, Andy was a great intro here to our next guest. And, we're going to cover the 4 phases of the QP, and takes us through getting someone launched all the way through kind of beginning more so understand and build a good foundation for the business for platinum, emerald, and diamond. And this is I would say the second half of the better part of the relationship and the partnership with Norma, and that is Bob Duane, the Emerald business owner in Texas. Dallas, Texas is where they make their home, and their upline triple diamonds are Rick and Sue Lynn Sensor. So, Bob, great to have you with us.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here. Andy, that was fantastic. Steve, that was great information. And I get the opportunity to talk shortly about the four factors that Doyle talked about. And so to get things going, Doyle's putting that slide up, and I'm going to turn the camera off so you can see it better because it'll be bigger. But I'm excited to be here. Let me turn that off so it'll be a bigger picture. There it is. When you talk about the first launch, and Andy talked about the 30-day run, and if you listen to, and the whole thing that I'm going to promote tonight is listen to, re-listen to CD 1344, the post-launch by Anthony Maleo, and you'll get everything that this all ties together with a ribbon. But if you look at launching your business in the first 30 days, what are the four phases? If you think about 30 days as 4 weeks, in phase one or phase A of that first 30-day core run, they launch the business, that they actually get an IBO number, and that they sign up with IBOC, and that's when they launch their business. But that's not the most important. What's important is we start to help them develop habits, and that's what 30-day core run is all about. So phase B of that first 30 days is, are they really going to honor the partnership? And if you did everything that Andy just talked about, they're making a commitment, they're excited about get extended an offer, they accept the offer, and part of that is about honoring the partnership. And in the third week of that first 30 days is where they effectively start able to get people understand, start talking and developing and putting people in the vetting process for you to help them. Remember, as Dirk Taylor says, you got to model everything. And Andy said it. Your mentor is going to be doing your first and second meet and greets and developing that. And then the fourth phase is developing where they can develop significant levels of growth and accomplishment. The 30-day core run is the launch, but not ready for a 90-day core run if they go through the 30-day and they're not successful. They've got to be successful, and there's nothing like learning a little discipline. And as Darren Hardy said in his book, nothing, if it's not tracked, it's not done, and you just need to think about this is from A to D is a 2 to 5 year plan to go diamond. And when we started in the business and we started plans out, Extra used to, it all started out 2 to 5 year plan for financial independence, which was 2 to 5 years to diamond. So to get it successful, it has to start right. And the 30 days are so important that they start right. And so then you get past that and you get into talking about budget. And we've been doing so many budget talks, and I'm not a licensed financial planner. So I make sure people know that. But I found so many people don't have a budget. What they do is at the end of the month, they look what they have spent. And I said, that's an expense report. That's not a budget. And encourage them to budget and read the book, Four Laws of Financial Prosperity, and be able to understand. And a lot of people have no idea how much money they're spending. Here's a few questions question when they say that. I have to see how much money they have in there, and that's how they live their life. That's not a way to have a budget. So several people that are financially very successful in life, we've suggested, and they have started taking cash out of the bank to spend for their coffee or their lunches or their extra money and for food at the grocery store. And that way they know what they're spending. And it's amazing weekly as we get back with them that how they go, wow, I didn't realize I didn't realize this. And I remember one comment from one couple. She said, I had my grandkids in the car and they wanted to stop at McDonald's. And I said, no, we're going to go home and eat. And, it was just a mindset change. And having a good budget is so important to be financially successful in life. And I really encourage people to read the book, 4 Laws of Financial Prosperity, because the reason that's recommended is he talks about developing secondary incomes. Instead of just living on beans and rice and paying all your debt off, he talks about paying your debt off, but also to build ways to do that. And in the first phase, you're listening to audios, you're reading every day, 15 minutes. You attend all the Zoom meetings since we're in the pandemic. We're doing a lot of Zoom meetings and a lot of GoToWebinars, and that's working. When somebody can master the 30-day core run, what happens is we are getting them ready for a 90-day core run. But if you think about this, and I read this in the John Maxwell Book of the Month, which is a great book this month, The Leader's Greatest Return. And he tells a story in there about Chick-fil-A. And the Chick-fil-A is not in the chicken sandwich business, and they're not even in the fast food business. They're in the people development business. That's what their VP says. They're in the people development business, what their founder says. And I was talking to someone the other day, and they said, and if you have Chick-fil-A's and we've seen them in Texas, they're blocking the roads. People are going in there. They got 2 lanes. They got people out there taking orders. By the time you pull around, it's a very fast process. And I was talking to a nurse the other day, and she said, if Chick-fil-A was doing the COVID-19 testing, we'd have 1,000 tests done a day in Texas. And it's just they have developed a system, but they're in the people development business. Well, you know what? That's Dexter always told us. You build the person, and then they'll build the business. Steve talked on the early part of this call about setting pot. And the QP process is not really anything different than what we used to do. It's just with a different flair. So, because remember, we mentor people in life first so that we can help coach them on how to build cash flow assets so that they can live the life they want to live. Now, we mentor people, or I've been mentored by Rick and Susan Setzer in life, not just in the business. And that's the difference with our business and every other network marketing business out there that's just trying to sell and recruit and, throw mud up against the wall, and that sticks, work with it, and that doesn't, don't worry about it. At one time, that probably was how we built the business, where we learned that's not a successful long-term play. So when somebody moves into the 90-day core run, they've got to be successful enough to do it. And one of the things on the tape, audio, not tape, that Anthony talks about is 1 + 1 - 1 + 1 - 1. And if someone, I keep call it stepping it up. If you are going to do the team standard of being able to do 25 to 30 or over 100 conversations a month and get 12 making people aware and, get somewhere around 8 drop the messages and 4 meet and greets, you can do that every week. That's the team standard. And we want people to get to that level. Now, it's a lot harder to do that in the pandemic. I agree with that. But we have to teach people how to have conversations. I like to huddle with people about conversations and say, what they say, what you say. And one thing that really has kind of helped a lot of our team in some of the group Zoom meetings we've been doing every week, accountability calls, is Norman had said to one of them, well, I sure have enjoyed this conversation. I'd like to continue it. And we get their number and they continue it. Well, people have been able to carry on conversations and get past that fear of when they're in the conversation. How do they make them aware? How do they get someone aware of? And don't be weird. And don't overuse mentor and your success. Use the word. What you're trying to do is connect with people so you can connect them with your mentor, which is all the way up to the Jaegers. So in first phase, it's 30 days. If they succeed in the 30 days, if you get someone going through the 30 days and they go, well, I only listen to, they don't listen to an audio a day, you're preparing them. It's what I used to call August 2 days in football season, where you go out there when it's hot and you sweat and you learn, and you're not playing games, you're getting in good practice. So you get to the 90-day core run. If you're ready, you continue doing all those habits you learn, but you're able to introduce people. One of the, I think, most brilliant things of this whole concept is people don't blow out the people they know because they get educated before they start talking to people. And so in the 90-day core run, they're introducing you and setting up meet and greets, and you're helping them and they're out there. And as Andy said, it's easy on the A list and the B list, the C list. They'll have to develop a skill set to be able to do that. That's not just going to happen. The steps happen as you build your foundation. So when you get a 90-day core run and you're really honoring the partnership and you're doing 100 conversations in a month, in a 30-day period of time, and you're making 25 to 30 conversations a week is over 100 conversations a month, and that will put enough people. One of the biggest mistakes people make is in the old way. We would talk to somebody and we'd think we have them, and we'd sit there working with them. And in this, we're told you need to have 8 to 10 people going through the process to get 1 or 2 that get extended an offer. Now, that's a mindset. And if you have 10 people going through, you don't care if 2 or 3 fall out, because you don't want the ones that are going to fall out. You want committed people that are going to honor the partnership. And so as you move into the next phase, D, and you're asked if this is where your whole business is going to, and if you go through A, B, and C, it's like, and you think about this, and this has been said by many people, if you do 8 90-day core runs, which are 3 months, that's a 2-year period of time. And if you do that, you'll have a solid platinum ship, ruby volume. It'll be just awesome, because what happens is if you're doing what you're not coaching people to do, but you're showing by example, you're leading, you're out there doing that, what happens is you're going to continue to add, and if you go through the process, you should be adding 1 and maybe 2 new people every 30 days. So if you're going through that process personally, you're going to be adding new teams on. So you need to make sure, just like Steve said, you have your story down. It's 30 seconds or less. You record it. I like people have been sending it to me written, but I like to hear the voice inflection. So that's a great tip from Steve, that you're able to do that so that you can move forward. And if you do this and you do that, and you make the commitment, I'm going to do this for 2 years. Well, you get into D, and D is really the end of the 2 to 5 year plan. It's where all of a sudden accomplishments and rewards and all the pins that you've been seeking are going to really just open up, because what you've done is you become an expert at following the system and not making a system up. And the best part is this is so trainable, and I love the cheats, and that you can study those so good, that studying them so you're so good when you're in front of people, it's so natural. And you can read the flow. How do I do this? How do I do that? It's just awesome. And, one of the things that when you talk to people about honoring a partnership and you gain their commitment before you extend them an offer, you want to know if they're serious. Because I always tell them, look, partnerships don't end wrong, they start wrong. And if we start this partnership right, it can be, as you said, forever. I've been in partnership with Rick and Sue Lynn for over 30 years, and it's a partnership that continues to grow. But when you move from B to C, you're learning leadership skills, you're developing leaders, and as you develop leaders and you move into D, you're going to be where you're building your foundation for Diamond. You'll have all the recognition levels, but as you go through this, some of the exciting parts that are going to happen, as you develop leaders, your business is going to take off. And you think about the way this is collaboratively taught, where you can pick somebody and you can model a meet and greet 1, a meet and greet 2 view. And here's something I've been doing, just started doing, and it's really working well. When I'm doing a meet and greet 1 or meet and greet 2, actually, I've done it with meet and greet 2s and overviews when I'm just doing a Zoom meeting, and it's not a group meeting, it's just helping one team member. I will invite someone, just like we used to put them in our car and take them with us, to just sit in and to listen. I introduce them, they then turn their volume off and their video off, and they just listen. And they're able to just see, and then they can go out and do the same thing. So as you're in the D phase, you are follow this through to the 5-year plan. What's going to happen is the statistics are there. and you're going to be a diamond. And so, one of the things I want to end before I introduce back Doral is that because of the pandemic, we've got recognition at Free Enterprise coming up, and recognition for the 90 days leading up to Free Enterprise is to do 100 conversations in a month. Now, the team standard when the pandemic's done is to be doing 100 conversations every month. But this is a 90-day period that if you do 100 conversations, you'll be learning the habit, you'll be learning the skill sets. And 24, making them aware, 12, dropping the message, and 4, meet and greets. That's a standard to be recognized at Free Enterprise. You'll want to do that. And last, learn the skill set. As you look back at that flow chart, some people jump to meet and greet one when they need to have, they meet someone, they make them aware it sounds good, and they sip coffee. And I think on the sheet it says meet and greet 0.5. And that's where you get to know somebody, and that's where you hear their story. And you listen to the story, then you tell your story. That's when you make them really aware and you drop the message. And if that goes well, then you can actually learn them and turn it into a meet and greet one. If it doesn't, you can meet again if it's still going good and create a meet and greet one. But it's keeping people in the process. So what's going to happen if you keep adding these teams, your income, just think about this. 9 to 12 partners, honoring legs, you're going to make somewhere around 60 grand a year. 12 to 18, you're going to be making somewhere around 100 grand a year. 20 plus, you're developing wealth that your family will have forever. And you're going to find out that you're not trying to push people. You're working with the ones that are rising to the occasion. So I'm going to turn it back to Doral. And thank you very much for this opportunity to talk tonight.
Well, thank you, Bob. Great overview. You got a lot of good detail, summary of detail from Andy in terms of the framework. And now, Bob's given a good overview, kind of 5,000 feet, you could say, of the 4 phases as you get someone started and then get them on the right solid foundation towards building a platinum ship onto Ruby and Emerald and beyond. So thank you, Bob. Appreciate you being on, taking the time tonight. And everyone, let me share with you a little update on the importance of registered customers. You've been hearing us talk about this quite a lot over the last many months, and you're going to hear even more about it, mainly because the U.S. government has increased their activity and some of their actions in the regulatory environment. They're monitoring the DSA or direct selling companies and the representatives, meaning in our case, IPOs, more closely. In a variety of ways. A lot of times that is social media in our accounts.